Hey, what's up? It's Jake from Nimbus DevOps, and today we are going to be talking about initializing an instance. So, have you ever noticed that before calling, let me pull up my price before calling this, um, in the code above, like with final price, this guy right here, um, we had to assign net price to P1. Did you notice that? So there's a better way to do this. So in another language, this would be called a constructor, but in Python, it's not. It's actually an initializer, since it works on an already created instance, and therefore it's called init. And init it looks like this init. It's a magic method, not like real magic, with like birds and flowers and never-ending handkerchiefs. It's run right after the object is created. So Python objects also have uh, a new method. Okay, and that's actually the constructor. So in practice, it's not so common to have to override it though. And it's a technique that is mostly used when writing meta classes, which I already said it's kind of advanced. I'm not going to go into it. But let's look at an example of how to initialize objects in Python. Okay, so I'm going to make a class called rectangle. Okay, and I'm going to define and I'm going to initialize this here, and I'm going to say self, a side A, and a side B. And then I'll say self dot side A is just side A. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with side B. Okay, so self dot side B is just side B. Then inside this class, still, I'm going to define area that takes self. Okay, so the class rectangle has this understanding of identity of itself. I'm going to define the area self and say, hey, return self dot side A, self dot side A times self dot side B. All right, so there's my class. Now let's create an instance and say R1 equals rectangle 10:4. So you can probably just by looking at this understand what it does, but we want to talk about what exactly this means. Okay. And so let's add to this a little bit more. So we'll say, hey, print R1 dot side A, R1 dot side B, which should give us 10 and 4. And then we want to print R1 dot area, which should give us 40. And let's make a second instance of R2 is rectangle 7,3. Okay, and if I do the exact same thing and replace R1 with R2, I should get the sides 7 and 3. And then if I take the R2 area, I should get 21. So this is finally, hopefully, starting to like make sense and be less theoretical and take some shape. So when the object is created, right, this class rectangle object is created, the init method is automatically run for us. Okay, so before all this, okay, it is automatically run. In this case, we wrote it so that when we create the object, by calling the class name like a function, we pass arguments to the creation call. So this is the create, like we're creating it here. This is a creation call, and we're passing these arguments. Okay. And we would do this just like you would do with a function. but the way we pass parameters follows the signature of the init method, and therefore in the two creation statements, 10 and 7 will be side A for R1 and R2 respectively, and 4 and 3 will be side B. So you can see that the call to area from R1 and R2 reflects that they have different instance arguments, right? So these are different instance arguments. Why? Because this instance has an argument of these two values. This instance has an argument of these two values. Self is something that it understands, but it's also going to take a side A and B. So here's your A and B defined in these instantiations of this instance. Setting up objects in this way is much nicer and more convenient. In this example, we also declared attributes at the instance level rather than at the class level because it makes sense, right? You would want to be able to define different length and width of rectangles at the instance level, not at the class level, because not all rectangles will share the same class attributes, side A and side B, unless every rectangle was the same size. So that is a very, very basic look, and hopefully it makes sense at initializing an instance. So if you have any questions, let me know. And if not, we will move on to code reuse.